The interview's already started. I'm gonna introduce myself real quick, but
Okay.
hi. It is Tuesday, the 5th of September at about 1300. It was supposed to be or 1 p.m. for all you non-military types. It's supposed to be at 10 o'clock this morning, but I slept in, and David Owen from the 57th district, the House district, was very kind in letting me reschedule. So we're here. I'm Matt Daniel from the Spirit of VMI. I'm the chairman of Spirit of VMI, and with me is class of 1988, our political strategist for the Spirit, Joe Eli. Can you say hi, Joe?
Hi, Matt. Hi, David.
Nice, how are you today?
Thanks for coming. Good. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
And our special guest, and we're real excited to talk with him, is David Owen, retired businessman who is now running for the district seat there in the 57th. And hello, David. How are you?
I'm well this morning or this afternoon. Sorry, the day's kind of running together. So
yeah, so we'll get right to it. I'm gonna ask you about your district. The four corners of the district. I'm gonna ask you what's happening when you're at the doors knocking, what people are saying, and how your agenda or your platform may address those things. And then we're going to ask you about getting people out to vote and what's more critical, the independents or the base. And then we'll ask you a layup VMI question and then in the interview. So we'll start now. Tell me about your district. Tell me about the 57th.
Okay, the 57th district is a large portion of what used to be the 56th district, but it's eastern Goochland County and western Henrico. So Governor Youngkin carried the district by almost 3 points in his election, and it's an area where I grew up. So western Henrico it's Short Pump, Innsbrook, Wyndham area of Henrico, and then eastern Goochland, which is all the 5th district of Goochland and half of the 4th district of Goochland. So 3 precincts in Goochland County of the 10. And as I said, I grew up in the Henrico portion of it. The last 20 years, I ran Boone Homes, and we built homes and all that section of it. So I've got a good understanding of the district and built homes for a lot of people in the district. So I'm out knocking doors on homes I built, and people that I built homes for still living in those homes. And fortunately, when I knock on the doors, I'm not getting a punch list still 5 or 6
Nice.
Later. So yeah, so it's a district that is critical to the Republicans maintaining control of the House of Delegates. It's one of the 4 that the speaker has identified that needs to be won for Republicans to maintain the majority. And Speaker Gilbert has reminded me of that several times to make sure that I know what I'm doing. And you mentioned door knocking. I've been out knocking doors. I crossed the 6,000 door mark personally last week. So by the time early voting starts, actually I'm about at 6,500 now, I think. By the time early voting starts in, 2 weeks from this Friday, I hope to be closer to 7,000 doors by then, which means that's, almost $15,000 voter contacts. And it's interesting, everybody asks me, what do you hear in the doors? What kind of reaction do you get? Of course, everything's a mixed reaction. But the common theme I hear on a regular basis, kind of 3 things. Absolutely. One is the economy, the cost of groceries, the cost of gas. People talk about going to the grocery store and walking out with a small bag of groceries and they've spent $100. And education, and then just civility. And everybody's tired of the partisan politics and everybody just kind of drawing their line and yelling at each other. And, in business, you can't do that. You have to get results and get things done. And that's what I've told people. My goal is to go down to the General Assembly and get things accomplished. I'm not going to draw a line in the sand and yell across the line at the other side. We're going to find some consensus and do things that help the economy. And on the education side, I probably have talked to 20 or so teachers that are currently teaching, retired teachers. And, our whole education system as someone that worked in the construction business all their lives, you have to have a good foundation for a building or anything to stand up. And for everything that goes on in the Commonwealth, I think that's education. And I got a fantastic education in Rico County and went to University of Virginia. And I feel like we slipped some. Yeah. And we got to get back to basics on education with reading, writing, math, science, and history. And in talking to these teachers at the doors, I mean, they'll tell you that, you know, they've got students that come to them confused by other teachers that may be putting their ideology into the classroom instead of just teaching them the material that needs to be taught. So if we can fill our curriculum just with teaching, some of that other stuff will all go away. But the teachers are also saying they're not getting supported by administration. And you kind of look at it, you know, when you've been in small business, you understand that, you know, you need to keep your overhead down. And I think in education, we might have more administrators than we need and not enough teachers. And the emphasis and the money that's spent needs to be spent on educating the children and getting them ready for the world when they come out, whether it's to go to college or whether it's to go to a trade school or go right to work. And I don't think we're doing that as well as we have in the past. I was talking to a gentleman that heads up the Goochland Career and Technical Education program, just trying to learn more about that. And I was shocked to understand that in Virginia, for a school system to be accredited, it does not have to have a career and technical education program, which tells me there's no emphasis there. So we need a little more emphasis there, because any of these school systems I've talked to that have those programs, they're full. And when the students get out of there, they've got a certificate typically in whatever discipline they're in, and they go right to work and have a job and no debt whatsoever. And then we look at higher education and the cost of higher education. I mentioned I went to University of Virginia, and my son graduated from the University of Virginia as well in 2018. And foolishly, I did the math. I found one of my old bills. I did the math for my education and what I made with the first job when I got out of school, which, I mean, wasn't a huge amount of money, but I had a good return on my investment for my college education. Then I ran how much it cost for my son's education and said, for him to get that same return salary in that first job, he would have had to make over $200,000 a year in his first job. Wow. And again, I'm not talking about, it's not because when I got out of school, I got a huge salary. I went to work as a construction engineer for Texaco USA, and I was making $20,000 a year. But the cost of education was much less of a percentage. So the return on that investment has changed. So we've got to work on that. And that kind of all ties together, getting back to the basics on education, you know, having more career and technical education. So we've got paths for every student depending on their needs and their talents, because they can be different. So I've kind of gone down a lot of rabbit holes. I don't know if I'm answering your questions or not, but hopefully I am. And if I've gotten off base, please pull me back and tell me if I haven't answered any of them.
No, it's exactly what we wanted to hear. We wanted to hear what are the issues that you're finding when you're knocking on doors, how it's going. You know, maybe a little bit about how it's going that you're seeing, but you answered some of that already. You're getting pretty good feedback, I imagine.
I am, and it's, you know, it depends on the last week, knocked a lot of doors, not as many people at his home. I think everybody was in that a week vacation for Labor Day weekend and some of that, but it's I would say maybe 3 people total out of all the doors I've knocked, all the people I've talked to have been rude and slammed the door in my face, essentially. For the most part, people are receptive, they're open. Some want to talk more than others, but it's good feedback. And again, like I said, it's the topic that comes up the most is the cost of everything, the inflation, the cost, and things are out of control there. We've got to do something there, which in my opinion, one of the big things we've got to do there is get back to energy independence and get the cost of people traveling to work and people traveling and the transportation of all our goods. Excuse me. So if we can get that back under control, back to energy independence, a lot of the costs come down almost immediately. But yeah, it depends on what's in the national news sometimes too. Like sometimes you knock on a door and you hear the news on in the background, and people kind of come and whatever happened to be on the news that 5 minutes is what's on their mind, and you ended up talking about that. So in a lot of cases, we're talking about national issues that at the state level we really can't do anything about. But it is still good to hear what's on their minds.
Yeah, for sure. And are you finding that it'll be more important for the base to actually get out? I mean, this being a midterm is kind of a low energy election, not low energy for you, and certainly not for us either, trying to support you guys, but it's sort of the least traveled election of all the election cycles. So is it the base or the independents or both? And what would be maybe your effort to address either or?
Well, the short answer is yes, all the above. So this district, when you look at the breakdown of this district, and of course in Virginia, we don't register as Republicans or Democrats, but what we look at in this district, there are about 20,000 Republicans and about 18,000 Democrats, but there are 24,000 swing independent voters. So we've got to turn out the base as well as a large majority of those swing voters. And we started knocking doors back in April, and we started knocking doors on the swing voters as well as the soft Republicans, or not really soft Republicans, but Republicans that don't turn out in every election. Because, in Virginia, we have an election every year, not unlike a lot of states. So to your point, this is the election cycle that a lot of the Republicans don't come out and vote. So we've identified those as best we can and been going to them early. We've got mailers going out almost weekly at this point. So we've been in full court press really since August 1. With early voting, early voting is 2 weeks from this coming Friday. So with early voting, we've got to be out there 2 months ago, which we were, and identifying those low propensity voters as well as the swing voters. And we're making phone calls to them. We're sending them mail. We've got a video out there now that's on cable and those venues. We haven't gone up on broadcast TV yet. So we're in full court press right now. And, we're 60, 62, 63 days to November 7th.
Yeah, it seems like the governor has put together a pretty comprehensive plan to motivate people to vote early, in a way that's never been done, at least from the Republican side before, and trying to address and address the immediate disadvantage or the advantage that the other side has generally in the last elections over the last 5-6 years. So that Get Out to Vote Virginia, I misnamed it, but it's something along those lines. Secure Your Vote Virginia.
Right.
I know every candidate we've talked to has really, and we've talked to a lot, has really pushed that. So that's good news. I don't mean to steal the limelight. I think Joe had something he wanted to ask you. Joe, I'll go on mute here.
Yes, David, in 1839, the Virginia Military Institute was founded on the concept of the citizen soldier and the values of honor above self and devotion to duty. Do you believe that your values and legislative agenda align with these that I just cited? And would you fully support the founding principles of the Institute in the legislative sessions going forward?
Well, fortunately, I wasn't around then when that was done, but to answer your question, yes. As I said, I went to University of Virginia. I was sorry to see the honor system there change, but I believe we need more of that type of thought process in everything we do.
Well, I appreciate that.
Both schools are bedrocks to the Commonwealth, I believe.
Yeah, and VMI has endeavored to keep its honor system. It has been under threat, and VMI itself has been under threat, as you know, from the previous governor and some of the legislators who actually went so far as to say that maybe the time for VMI has passed.
Right.
Well, the people that go to VMI have to have a different mindset. It's a different type of institution. And we need places to turn out leaders and military, specifically military leaders. And to say that its time has passed, I think it'd be very short-sighted, because unfortunately we're going to have threats from outside of this country for some time to come. And we need military leaders in place that can help us protect this country and everything we stand for.
Well, we appreciate the response and appreciate the pledge support to VMI and the spirit of VMI. And if we can get you to say VMI is good, it's one of those silly things that we say. Of course, it's good. But there was a time, 2 years ago, when the national media and the government in Richmond would have you believe otherwise. So we keep pushing that phrase.
We need to support VMI. We need it for the reasons it was originally founded, and those reasons continue to this day. So yes, I would support those endeavors.
Roger that. VMI is good. Well, I appreciate it, David, and thank you. What we're going to do is we're going to close out here with you, and then we're going to talk about you behind your back, and then we'll
just turn around.
Yeah, we'll cut the video, and hopefully we'll have this thing out tomorrow, hopefully, for you to use if you want to consume it. If not, then we'll use it to get out our base to inform them on where you stand. You gave us some good information on several different topics, from the economy to education to basic civility, and how we should be treating each other in a civil society. And I agree with you 100%. By the way, we have an event at the Kindred Spirits Brewery, which is out your direction on the 15th. So that's next Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday.
Right.
You're welcome to come and drink free beer on us if you'd like.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm going to try to get by there at least for a little while. I've got a couple other events that day as well. I got to knock some doors, but I'll slip by there for a little while. I'm always interested to see a non-marching band from VMI.
That's right. That's the band that's playing. That's right. Good. Right. Okay, sir. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. Have a great afternoon. I'm gonna go knock some doors.
Thanks,
Yes,
David. Good luck.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Bye.
Just a calm, cool, collected customer.
Exactly.
And it sounds like maybe he's leading.
Yeah, we never ask about polling, it seems, but I'm sure he probably has some. But he's very rational and reasonable and knowledgeable, and as you said, very calm and poised. Yeah, his business experience would be very valuable in the legislature as well.
Rational, reasonable, and what was the third thing you said? Comfortable? Calm. Yeah.
Yeah. Polished.
Yeah, I think so.
He has a very easy way of speaking, and takes his time. And I think it's really what that really is poise.
Yeah, poise. I like that.
Another thing about David is he's literally built a foundation in parts of the district as a builder. So, I think that will help him.